Here we go. I get to sit here this morning with Pham, Jason Lee, amazing business partners, friends of mine. I'm just pumped for this because the world needs to hear how you guys operate. And so thanks for being here. Thanks for being here early. I want to make note of that. The hangar isn't exactly on your way to anything. And to get here and ready to go at 8 o'clock in the morning, I know you got up at 5. At least.
Just about.
About. Right. So thanks, you guys, for doing this. This is awesome. The genesis of this whole podcast thing, have I ever told it to you?
I think so.
I didn't do this for years and years and years for all of these excuses I came up with of, I don't know, technology, all these platforms, social media, all that just overwhelms me. It's really not something I'm really drawn to. But finally, a great friend said this. He said, you know what? I think this needs to be framed in a different way. I know everybody's taking a run at this with you, but I'm going to take a run at it differently. He said, Greg, I want you to do this for your kids. He said, listen, I know your kids don't know the people you know. Many people that you know real well have never even met your kids. And if those kids could learn one thing from all the amazing people you know, you won't have to do anything right. they would just learn from them. And I went, now that makes sense to me. And immediately it was like, oh, done. So I'm excited for everyone to listen to this, but I'm also really excited for my daughters, my sons, to listen to this because you guys you're doing it so right. So I want you guys to take me way back individually. I'm not getting out of this, V. Individually, and I want you to walk me through, earliest memories in childhood and how you were raised and where you were raised and what were the installations early on that sort of formed how you thought. Take me through that. Jason, give it a shot.
So I was born in Hawaii. My dad came over from Korea just after he left the military in Korea in the Vietnam War. Came back here, heard some stories about America, learned about the American dream, and then was inspired by it. He came over to Hawaii, and me and my brother were born there. And, from there he worked 2 to 3 jobs, learned a lot of what I'd say hard work. And he started from there, and then also, then I pretty much was born there, learned a lot about how he...
Now, he came from a military career. So was civilian work in Hawaii something new to him, or was he still involved in the military in some way?
No, he completely ended with the military, and then he came here, luckily got a visa, and then he worked a lot of jobs, earned enough money to come bring the rest of his family here. So his wife, my mom, and then all of his brothers and sisters, 6 other brothers and sisters, earned enough money to bring them all here. So from day one, I've always learned a lot of hard work.
Did you come first with your brother and leaving your mom behind for a while?
We were born here. Me and my brother were born here. So there was a big age gap between me and my sisters.
I see. Huh. Like how big an age gap?
12 and 16 years apart.
Wow.
From me and them.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Huh. And culturally, you hear this quite often of like, it's not enough to just get yourself here. I don't know if there's an expectation, but there certainly is a motivation to get the whole family here. Which that kind of selflessness to come and work, to earn money and establish yourself, to send money to bring everybody. I mean, those sorts of lessons, that selflessness, I guess, is something you witnessed. Like, we're working to bring the rest of them here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're definitely, my dad's always been a workaholic, which is what he's instilled that into me pretty young. Pretty much you got to work hard, you got to do what you do well, and the rest will come.
And so in terms of work ethic and do what you do well, was there an expectation on you for those things, or was it just something modeled that you noticed? Was it expected for you to do what you do well and to work hard?
I think it's always been implied. Everything that my dad's always done, he's spent a lot of time and pride into. So everything that he's done, he's tried his best. He's put a lot of pride into it. He doesn't do anything that he wouldn't put his name on. So I try and work the same way as well.
That's fantastic. Gosh, just all by itself, that idea of signing what you do and taking pride in it is, that's an amazing quality. Yeah. And how great that he modeled it. He didn't talk about it, he modeled it. And V, same format. Give me the early years of your life.
Yeah, so I am actually the firstborn American of my family. My dad is one of 13. My mom is one of 8. And they, similar to Jason, my parents, I am Vietnamese, so they fled from the Vietnam War. And my mom was 18 and pregnant with my brother, and they were on a tiny little boat, kind of floating into the distance of wherever they could go, and ended up landing in Thailand. And my mom told me this story about how at one point they were like 6 days in, no food, no water, and everyone was miserable. And the whole boat decided as a community that they would just end their lives there because they were just suffering and didn't know where they were going. And they all jumped off, but my mom was pregnant at the time with my brother, and my dad was just like, "What are you doing? Like, we've got to keep going." And so he pulled her back into the boat, and they ended up going to the Philippines where my brother was born. And they lived in the refugee camps there. And then my uncle actually fought in the war on the American side, and he was able to get sponsored to Seattle, which then he sponsored my parents. And then we came to America. Well, they came to America, and then I was the firstborn here. So yeah, a lot of times when I think about a hard day, I kind of think of what my parents have gone through, and I'm like, oh, nope, today's great.
Today's a good day.
It's a good day.
Especially if you don't know how to swim, right?
I don't. Yep, I would not have survived. So thank you to my brother for pushing my parents to keep going. But yeah, so I'm the firstborn American. My parents came here with nothing. My mom didn't even finish middle school because she had to quit school to take care of her siblings because her parents were so poor. And yeah, I think just coming to America, I think the hopes and dreams of just having something different than what Vietnam could provide at the time, and they're still a third world country. It was just gratefulness, having a chance at something different and new. And I think that's what pushed my parents to work so hard. My mom, they both didn't even speak a speck of English. And so just learning everything and being in a new world just pushed hard work ethics and gratitude. I feel like that's what I have, where I'm very grateful every day of no matter what happens, to just still breathing.
You know, the concept of being a refugee, like, you know, I've looked that word up to just sort of see if I could get I don't have any reference for what that would be like, of literally running for your life, like anywhere safe, anywhere, just fleeing what you know, it's, you know, you don't want to be here because it's dangerous and you've got to go. But I think of that once you've done that, once you've settling down and sleeping a night where you feel safe, I mean, the contrast is just as dramatic as it could possibly be. And so gratitude, I could, you know, where you have nothing maybe, but you're safe and your family's here. Oh, you can sleep. You know, you're so grateful that you're not on the run. You're not worried about it ending, you know? I don't know. To me, there's a theme that comes deep in people. And when you're around it, you become it, right? And that is a theme in you, is gratitude. You just feel at peace. And it's because they may have had nothing and didn't even know the language, but at least they were safe. And when you have a family, kids, you know, that's job one. You want to know that they're safe, you know. So I think it's inspiring. Your first memories, did they know any English by the time you came along?
No, so my first language was also Vietnamese. I think my father did a bit. My mom, she essentially was a housekeeper, and then she ended up landing a job in a hospital and did materials there. But my father ended up learning more English and then went to UW to get an education. And my first language was Vietnamese in the house, so it was just easier. But then I went to school and picked up English, and my dad kind of disciplined me to only speak English as much as I could, just so that I could adapt to America. But I'm actually really grateful that I spoke Vietnamese first, because now I have a second language and can go back to Vietnam and see my family who's still there.
And is there in the greater Seattle area, are you tied, both of you, to a Korean culture, to a Vietnamese culture? Are there pockets that you interface with that culture in Seattle? I know there's quite a few, but are you involved in that community here?
I'm not. I'm pretty Americanized. So I think when I was very young, we spoke a lot of Korean, and the moment that I went to public school, all we spoke was English. So over the years, I've slowly lost it. So the only Korean I speak now is to my mom, and it's very first grade level.
Very first grade level. But it works.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, right. Does she speak English?
Very little.
Very first grade level.
Yeah, she can dollar amounts, just enough to get by at the supermarket and such. But
right.
Yeah.
Right. Huh. And what about you, V?
I'm still a bit involved. I feel like I do know a bit of the community, and my parents and my brother and their siblings, they attend Vietnamese church, which has like a school, kind of like a youth group that the kids will go into. They learn Vietnamese, learn a bit of the culture. I have friends that are involved in the Chinatown International District that will do a lot of not just Vietnamese, but Asian awareness. So I'm a little involved. Yeah.
Sometimes I've seen it where, from a business perspective, I know a few power players in the Russian community who everybody they work with, it seems, is Russian. It's almost like they're an interpreter of sorts. They know the language. They're trusted in that community, and so people who know very little English but a lot of Russian come to them and say, "Okay, help me buy a home," or whatever, And so their whole business is built around the culture. But yours is all over the map. But you are involved in certain ways, yeah. So your dad went to the University of Washington. What did he study there?
He became an electrician. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now he's been at Seattle City Light for 35 years, actually.
For 35 years. Wow. Wow. And so your own education expanded. Let's talk about that. Out of high school, where did your education continue there?
So out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to go to school for. So I just kind of, joined the local community college. I went to Bellevue Community College.
Yeah.
And, as I went through, I just couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do. Throughout the years when I was, from a child on, my dad was always like, real estate, that's, owning land is the key to success. So I started, and right around when I was like 19, I took the class to become a real estate agent. At that time, I was like, who's gonna trust a 19-year-old to buy a house with them? And that kind of like mindset just drew me away from it. So I was just like, okay, maybe I won't do it. And then long and behold, now I wish I pulled through with it. I wish I had some kind of other advocate to like push me through it.
Yeah. our own logic isn't always the best at that age. We think we know it, but we don't. Yeah. What about you, V? Where did your post-high school years take you?
Well, to be honest, I was very heavily into video games. And I was really passionate, really competitive. And I went to UW, but simultaneously I was playing a lot of video games. And then that actually ended up me going into the film industry. And so I graduated from UW. I had a law society and justice degree, and I was planning to be a lawyer. But when I fell into film, I kind of just fell in love with, I guess, the lights. And then I ended up being a film producer, production manager, and I did that for about 14 years. Which then helped me manage massive production, film shoots, traveled all over the world. But, I was getting a little older, and 16-hour on sets weren't the ideal thing to do. And, I'd known Jason for quite a while, and he was like, you need to start investing, do some more real estate, and kind of just started dabbling, and then just kind of took off. Just
went from there.
Yeah, just I'm really passionate about whatever I do. I don't step halfway. I will go full force. And so when I'm interested in something and I learn about something, I love to be challenged. And so I think once I set my mind to, okay, I'm going to look into real estate, I just like, especially power players. I mean, that just completely flipped my world. So.
Well, I see that. That's where I guess I came into knowing you guys, is that when your passion for real estate, somehow it led paths crossed, and I've been the benefactor of seeing that passion. But let's go back into, hey, AJ, can we move her mic up? I just want to make sure that it's it picks up well, because it's slipped down a little bit. There we go. There we go. Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah. Your film world, the production world, has that served you in your real estate related world in any way that you see?
Completely.
Yeah.
I feel like the chaos of film can also transition into real estate, and there's a lot of emotions, there's timelines, dealing with project management, contractors, timelines, budgeting. It's a full transition, just a different field.
Yeah. I would have thought that it has an order of things, and just like construction has an order, if you get it out of order, all hell breaks loose. Yeah. So, and I can see your management skills of just outlines and here's what we're covering. And it's like I imagine that was a daily thing with production. You're like, okay, here's how today's going to go, and here's our schedule. And yeah, I can feel some of that. I want to jump back to Jason. You said your dad really emphasized that land and real estate was the key. Dig into that for me. How did he learn that?
I think growing up in Hawaii, you just see that everyone that is successful owns real estate. Like the most successful people in Hawaii own a lot of real estate. So you probably saw that the hotels that he was working for, or the big homes. Everyone owned a lot of real estate. So I think as he worked and grew up, it just saw like a strong correlation between a lot of real estate and a lot of money and wealth.
Right.
So I think he just correlated that, and he always instilled that into me as well.
And when he was here establishing himself, did he start buying real estate that you were working on or you were aware of?
Yeah, I mean, he started on pretty early on. So I think after he saved up enough money, he started kind of like a Benihana's, but it was a yakiniku kind of thing. And he started that, grew to a big business, and then sold it off for twice what he bought it for. And then he invested that money into a supermarket with the land. And then he did that for like a couple of years, and he sold that for double the money that he bought it for. So he essentially saw and experienced that like real estate can really grow very quickly and very well. So as he did that, he eventually came to a lot of different places like San Francisco, like Seattle. I think he went to New York, and he eventually settled on Seattle, and he ended up buying a huge commercial building here.
So he was hooked on the real estate thing, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so you sort of were born into that DNA, and well, I think that's also a really fortunate thing that again, we absorb what we see around us as possibility, and it becomes almost subconscious sometimes. I met A.B. when I was really young, and although I didn't know he owned anything other than some land up in the middle of nowhere, up in the mountains by my parents, but it was the way he spoke and it was the way he acted that, when I did find out that he owned a lot of real estate, it didn't surprise me because it all was in sync with his philosophy. It's like, this is that philosophy applied equals this. Right, it all made sense, and so I think that's really a benefit. You guys, tell me how you met your business partners. I know there's a great connection that you have with your wife, but is that how you guys met as business partners? Is through your wife?
Actually, me and V met through a lot of mutual friends almost 2 decades ago now. And she was dating a mutual friend of ours, and we never really spoke that much. We just kind of knew each other and said hi and bye in passings. And then probably a couple of years down, we actually started talking a little bit. And then probably say few more after that, my wife actually met V, and then I feel like they grew a pretty good friendship over the years. So eventually, grew up small or started small, and then as they got to know each other, they had a lot of similar principles, a lot of good friendships, and over the years, I feel like the people that and you still talk to are the people that actually really matter to you. So. My wife talks to V a lot.
Every day.
Yeah. So this partnership, I think it's interesting that there was sort of a long-standing, growing friendship that sort of merged into a business partnership. Oftentimes I see people meet each other at some real estate-related function, and they both kind of have the same general idea goals, at least they think they do, and then boom, a month later, they're buying real estate together. And then it seems like then they start facing the challenges of knowing each other and really what they think. And it never seems to work out great that way. I love the idea that you were friends, growing friends first, and then merged in. I'm just curious if you think that that's sort of a secret to why this partnership works so well.
I do. I feel like it's interesting because Jason and I was in film and Jason was in real estate. Even before that, he had his managing a gas station, but we were friends and we, partied hard and did fun things. But Jason actually came up with this idea where he wanted friends to come together and set goals for each other. I mean, we were in our early 20s, and early 20s aren't thinking about goals. They're thinking about what are you doing on Saturday night. And but Jason and I was like, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And so we did a monthly meetup where we chatted about goals and what are 5 and what are 10 and what we wanted to do. And it started with just Jason and I, and we tried to get more of our friends to come and do it. And slowly another person would join in and maybe another. But nobody was consistent with meeting every month and having things written down. And we'd be like, hey, this is our assignment for this month. And people would show up with nothing. And it was just Jason and I. And then people would make up answers on the spot. And, we kind of just trickled off because we were the only ones doing it, even though we were in different fields. But I really appreciated that he wanted to help push our friends outside of just partying, which is not normal. Most of the time, people are friends just to be hanging out friends, or you have your certain groups, like video game friends and your party friends and your golfing friends, et cetera, et cetera. So the fact that Jason kind of stepped outside that and wanted us to be more, I really appreciated. But we stopped doing that. We were still friends. I was doing my thing. He was doing his thing. And then we both, I feel, were equally pushing each other independently into our own goals because we didn't feel like other people were pushing themselves the same way as we were, at least in our friend group. And so I felt like I lost a lot of connection in that group because I just kind of felt like we drifted apart and goals and passions were changing. But Jason's always was pretty strong, as was mine. And so eventually Kimmy was just like, his wife, Kimmy, it's like, why don't you guys just work together? And then I was like, maybe we should try. And then just took off. Yeah. Thanks, Kimmy.
Yeah. That's really, to me, that's interesting that there's a different focus level in people, and you tend to gravitate toward those that are taking life as seriously as you want to take it, and I think especially as you're growing out of your 20s, it seems that some never gravitate out of their 20s. But those that are moving out of that and wanting to take a little bit more grit in life and a little more grounded and let's start establishing something, it starts weeding the pile out real fast. And so you're sort of the ones who took it more seriously. And I can see that intention. Tell me about the genesis of this meetup group. What made you think to sort of lead that we should all have goals and let's all start talking about that? Where did that come from?
I've always wanted it, and then I watched this little Netflix documentary called "I Am Not Your Guru," and it's a little Tony Robbins documentary about just his seminar where he kind of helps people go through Date with Destiny. That's what it's called. And he kind of goes through life changes, and I was at that point where I wanted things to change in my life. I felt very stagnant, and then I watched it, and it just gave me a kick in the butt that I really needed in life. I watched it and I was like, I need to make changes in my life, and that's the only way that's going to really happen. So then, like, the best way to do it is with other people and support. So then I was like, hey, like anyone that wants to make a change in their life, I'd love to meet up. Let's like plan it out. Let's, kind of make a blueprint, and then we'll go forward from there. And V was one of the very first people to show up, and there's a handful of others, but like she said, everyone's in a different point in their life at different times. So, but it was pretty evident that she was there, and that's what really made me I would say that's the turning point in my life where I'd watched it, really wanted to make some changes in my life, and then I saw that, as each day that I grew, I was like, maybe I can do it. Maybe I can change the way I think. Maybe I can do these things that I want, and then slowly but surely.
Mm-hmm. I reference a quote from Jim Rohn often. I think about it a lot. I think I've experienced it several times in my own life. The quote is loosely that all significant change has a precursor of disgust. And disgust is a tough word. That sounds like, but I think that I would redefine that it a precursor of some internal disruption where you just go, enough. I'm done with this place. Where you it can be a very quiet moment. It doesn't have to be anything that anybody would really notice, but where you just draw a line. And it's something inside, and you've mentally said, that's it. I'm changing. This is changing. And if anybody's going to do it, I've got to do it. Another quote that when you change yourself, you change everything around you. And I kind of add those together a lot in life. And I think that sort of awareness of if something's not happening the way you want it to happen, you want those buzzers to go off that say, it's up to me. Mm-hmm. I've got to change. Okay. And I'm going to, and does anybody else want to go there with me? Right? We can support each other. Well, I see the support between the two of you, and I think it's awesome that your wife is very much a part of the support team as well. But how the rest have sort of gone their own way to do whatever, but this is stuck. And the genesis of it was that I need to change something. Mm-hmm. To me, that's the greatest single quality of humanity, is that we can choose what happens next. We take responsibility for it. Okay, I got here somehow, and now I'm going to change what happens next. And so you guys, when did you guys sit down and say, okay, now as partners, here we are, we're doing this thing. I know you've sat down to say, what are our goals as business partners? How do we help get each other where you want to get to? Talk to me about that. How frequently do you visit those goals, and are we on track for what we said we want to do? And talk to me about that narrative.
So we do talk about goals. I usually set it as like once a month, but
goals
for like the monthly goals, which is kind of like the day-to-day plus a little bit. But at least once a year, we set to kind of define like what do we really want to focus on. Where are we at today versus 5 years from now versus 10 years from now. And a lot of our goals align pretty well. We're very fortunate to think very similarly in that way. Mm-hmm. I think our goals for the next 5 years is a lot of acquisitions. Mm-hmm. So, and then 10 is, getting into some commercial or some bigger deals. And then hopefully in 15, we just retire.
Just be done.
Yeah.
Well,
But we can never
financial-
be done. I don't think we're the type of people that will just
Wrap up.
wrap up. Like, what's next?
Yeah. What about how you support each other's more personal goals? Like, okay, I'm just going to say we can delete this if you don't want it in there, but you don't know how to swim. And now the world is going to be ripping you. Like, hey, learn
I
to
can
swim.
for 2
But
minutes.
that's a personal goal. I'm going to assume it's a personal goal.
Yeah.
Do you get involved in saying, hey, did you get to your swim lesson? Are you on it? That kind of thing. Do you support each other with those kinds of personal goals as well?
I would say yes, but in a different way. So I feel I've been told many times over I'm a workaholic. And Jason's been told many times over he's a workaholic. And it's funny because I will push on him to stop and spend some more time with his family and kids because I love them equally. Like they're my family and kids. And he will push me and say, hey, you're doing way too much because we share calendars just to make sure that we're all cohesive. And he will be like, just take a day off. Like I'll be sick and I won't even tell him that I'm sick because I got things to do. And then we'll pick up the phone and have our morning meeting. And he's like, you sound terrible. And I was like,
Go back
I
to
am.
bed.
And he was like, take a day off. And so it's those things where I think we support each other because first and foremost, we were friends. And so we care about each other beyond business because money will always be made, but friendships won't.
Yeah.
So relationships are what's number one for us. I think that's what's really great for us is that we support each other first as human beings and not just business partners.
Yeah, that's huge. It really is. That's, I think the essence of a partnership in its purest form is that your partner is in some ways more concerned about your success than you are, and vice versa, right? That's their place. Like, okay, is this going to work out good for you? Is their thought. And when everybody's thinking that way about one another, it's a greater motivation and it's a more sustainable motivation than just thinking about yourself, right? You'll always give more for something or someone else that you believe in more than yourself. So it actually gets more done when your focus is your partner, I just think it's fantastic. I want you to walk me through, a couple different deals, and in doing so, I want to see how your roles within the partnership play itself out. Like, here's an incoming lead, however it happens. Walk me through how it's sort of sourced out among the partnership. Who does what do you do together? How do you take it from the first time you've heard of it all the way through who manages it, right? Walk me through something like that.
So I'd say it usually gets sent to both of us, and then we kind of pick out like what it started from. But most of the time, I kind of take a brief overlook of like the deal, and then I run some quick numbers, either in my mind or breaking down on like a sheet, and then we go from there to we're saying, okay, like this looks like it might be worth our time. So then we go forward, we meet the seller, depending on if it feels like it might be more beneficial just to talk to one of us or the other person or both of us. So if it's like a married couple, we'll probably both go together because then, they both feel like, each person has someone to talk to versus like a guy to a guy or a guy to a girl. It might be different scenarios. So we just kind of go and play it out from there. We talk it over. And then from there, if we agree and tie it up, then a lot more of the organizational part I would call is V. She is pretty amazing. I mean, to go from, dealing with a real estate transaction when I said it's really easy versus her 300 person, 400 person production crews with permitting and like scheduling and organizing and payroll and all the financials. Like real estate is a cakewalk. So, and she's seeing it now too.
There's still a lot of difficulties for sure, but to just piggyback on what Jason said, Jason's very analytical and I'm very operational. So when it comes to deals, I am definitely the one that's tracking bird letters, tracking bounce letters, and tracking our leads and who calls who and when was the last contact. And Jason is the one that's more upfront and speaking to people and chasing the actual leads. And I'm the one that's documenting and just kind of being more operationals. But granted, there are still letters that come to me and I'll meet with them personally. And if I feel, hey, Jason, I need you here, I'm comfortable, or I think this is something that we can tag team off of, I feel like we do a great job at that as well. Jason's a lot more numbers and I'm very personable. Not saying that you're not personal, you are as well. But there's the empathy that I come sometimes when chatting with some folks where I can hit a little more deeper when it comes to personal matters versus Jason is very great with the overall picture of numbers and let's help you get your retirement plan and let's focus on getting you the most that you can here, or let's save the most, or how can we cut your taxes here? And for me, I'm like, what are your goals? What do you want to do in 5 years? What are your kids? Do you have kids? Do you have fur babies? And so I think we have a great balance in that way where we can tackle buyers and sellers, investors as a whole together, because what he lacks, I exceed in, and what I lack, he exceeds in. So it's a really great balance. Yeah.
I could see the meeting with a couple, just the two of you together working really, really, really well. I could also see certain, 1031 sellers where, it's all business, that you would step into that role and be that kind of matching role to that kind of seller. The more emotional ones, I could see you taking a lead on. The structure of your partnership, is it an LLC?
Yeah.
You have together?
Many of them.
And so most of the buildings that you buy are within that LLC, and then you just sort out the responsibilities of ownership and management. Do you handle most of the management?
So for our fix and flips, I do. Any of our long-term holds, Jason actually has a property management company. And so we, once we acquire the property, I will see it through the reno stage. And then once we're ready to actually rent it, then I'll hand it off. But prior to all the expenses of all of the tracking contractors, that's all me.
Yeah. It's a tremendous tag team. And the management company, talk to me about that as a separate entity. Do you take on other management clients, or are you going to take on more management clients other than your own portfolio?
Yeah, we do take it on. I don't actively throw it out there because it is a lot of work to manage properties. And, that all stemmed from, I went through 4 or 5 different property management companies, and they're all terrible. So it's just pick and choose which one, which aspect of it you hate the least, and then just go from there. So, everyone that I work with, they all like what they do as much as you can, and I treat them well and I take care of them well, and then everyone works really hard. So it goes a long way to just take care of people and treat people and make sure that, there's opportunity. Yeah.
Well, and I think that the management company, at least there's a good argument for taking on other clients, puts you in a position to be the first one to know if they ever want to sell that building. I know that's, at least AB stated, that's the number one reason he had a management company was that it gave him almost a first right to purchase should they sell. And But I agree with you with management to bring it in-house, and especially if you really care how things go. It's forming your own company with your own people to do it the way you want it done. I couldn't do it any other way. It's going to be top-notch and organized if I'm going to be involved. So I love that part of this. This progression of your goals, your single-family, multifamily has been a focus up till now. But you see it evolving into commercial. Talk to me about that transition. Why that transition? And is it just a logical progression in your mind of asset class, or is there a reason you're doing it in that order?
It's a thing about scaling in time. Like, even though there is a lot of profit and opportunity in residential real estate, as you have less time in life, you have to kind of pick and choose what you want to spend your time into. And the commercial, there is a lot more opportunity in a single deal. So instead of doing 20 or 30 residential deals, I would rather spend our time doing one deal and actually have a life instead of working. It takes almost the same amount of effort, maybe a little bit more scheduling and handling, but time-wise, one residential deal takes about as much time as one commercial deal. Right? So it does typically require a little bit more capital in a commercial, which is why we want to focus that later on. But it's just a time basis and cost basis.
I love the concept of scalability because when it does occur to you that, I did a house renovation, and you go, well, with the same effort, you could have built a house, probably sometimes less effort, much easier. And then if I could build a house for the same exact steps, I could have built 30 units. Same steps. It's just same phone calls, same permits, same. And when you realize that, you go, whoa, what am I doing with a house renovation? I could just. So it really is a big mental shift to go from, gosh, and if I can do that, I could buy 200,000 feet of commercial, which is a remodel. And then you start thinking like Troy to go, well, I could also just build 500,000 square feet of malls, and so you're every lap around the track, you start seeing that the other is just a variation of this, but the scalability of it, either in terms of square footage or number of pads or number of units, or that when you get more units, more square feet, the numbers all just exponentially get bigger and easier. And so, and more padding, when there's, you have a lot bigger room for error when you're building a couple hundred units than if you're building one. If things are off 20% on one, you're in trouble, but you've got a lot more headway to work with when you build a much bigger building or develop a bigger building. So I'm excited, and I get to be the one ribbing you along. That we're pushing you that way as hard as I can, because you're so capable of any size project. Even those that, gosh, I think of some of the remodels you've done, and I think of other projects that I one is in front of my mind right now, a 250 pad mobile home park that literally was a 4 subcontractor phone calls, a seal coating guy, a landscaping guy, a fence guy, and raise the rent. It was really nothing. 3 or 4 crews, great, that set it up. Now, guess what? We're raising the rent $75 a pad. And nobody moves. what was to that? It was 4 phone calls.
Yeah.
And much bigger contractors too. They're not the little guy trying to work it in a schedule. These guys have 40 trucks. They show up and landscape the whole thing. Got it. Boom. Right? Done. Seal coat the roads? Sure. No problem. They just start at one end and go. You know, they're bigger contractors, so they're more dependable and more businesslike, and you got a number, and it's a number you can count on, and a time frame you can count on. It actually is easier than the trying to work in individuals to do some little remodel. So anyway, I'm excited where this is going because you're moving quickly in that direction. So personal goals. We do all of this work. We make all this money. We build equity. We build cash flow. What are the personal goals that funnels into? To do what? To have what? To make what kind of mark? A personal goal like a new home. Do you mind talking about that? I'd love to.
I feel like, I don't know, I've tracking back to my family history. You know, my father is very traditional Vietnamese, very misogynistic man in a sort. And my mother was arranged to him, so she was given to him. And so I've kind of always been raised with the mentality of, you know, the woman in the household is the one that cooks and cleans and stays home and takes care of the children. And so that kind of molded my whole life of proving my dad wrong, that women are smart, we're capable, we're strong, we can do just the same things that men can do. And so that was my personal goal of just showing my dad, like, hey, I can make money, I can buy my own house, I can buy my own car, I can find my own way. But with that, I also, you know, I do want a family someday and marriage and kids. So my personal goals it kind of ebbs and flows with the season. Sometimes I'm like, I want to get this massive construction building and build this like super mall. And and then I'm like, wait, I just want kids and I want a dog. So I'm also a Gemini, so I'm all over the place. But, you know, I think that the biggest thing that I took away from the last 2 years of working in real estate and being a power player is my mindset. I used to always think, because of how I was raised, that I'm not capable, that I can't do things. And, you know, I've slowly written down my goals and I'm reaching them and realizing that I'm a lot more capable than I give myself credit for. And so I have just reached one of my dream goals of living on the water, even though I can't swim. I'll learn, I swear. But yeah, I think it's a huge thing of mindset and personal goals. Write them down, because when you write them down, then it becomes more real, and you make steps and put timelines and write goals of how you can achieve it, and then it happens. I think for me, it was like, oh, one day it'd be nice to live on the water. One day, you know, and you just kind of think of it. But if you don't write it down and you don't set a plan, even if it's 20 years from now, you know, that's what I wrote, 10 years, and it took me 2. So it's you kind of just surprise yourself with what you're capable when you change your mind.
I feel like a little bit like a bragging parent who's not telling the full story, that there's living on, you know, the water, and then there's living on Lake Washington, which is the coveted shoreline of Washington, period. There's no other shoreline that is as amazing and in demand. I mean, it's in the city of Seattle, Bellevue. It's the lake. And so I think it's such an extraordinary thing that, you know, you have recently just close on that, and you've moved in, and yes, you need to learn how to swim, and no more paddle boarding without a life jacket. We've discussed that
I love
too.
the thrill, Cap.
No. I'm drawing the line there. We're going to swim first, but that's an amazing goal, and I love that you guys too, again, support that effort. Like, I think you worked as hard, at least in part, on that deal as you did. You know, I mean, that the probing, the let's keep on this, let's not let this go. You know, this has got potential kind of thing from what I've been told. And so I love that you're helping each other reach those kind of goals that you have individually.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And it's not just
That's
me on
huge.
the water, is it, Jason?
No. Well,
She's not the only one that's got a new one. So I want you to talk about this thing that you just knocked down too.
so, like each year we kind of go over our goals, and V's was, I think it was like 2 years that she was like, oh, I want to live on the water. And she wrote it down, and I'm like, great. I'm like, let's make it happen. And then she did it. And then ironically, we were actually supposed to close on the same day on my waterfront one too. So one of mine was I want to have a second home on Puget Sound, around the Hood Canal area, and then I found one, and like it was almost a 10,000 square foot mansion, and like
That's a second home for you.
Yeah.
That's a hotel.
yeah, and I was like, oh, it seems like too good to be true. I go and look at it. They have it listed for like 1.8 million. It's been on market for a while, and I get it. It's like a big house, a lot of house to handle. And I go there, and I'm like, okay, well, I like it, but it is a lot of house to handle. So then, I do a little bit of negotiation, and I kind of did a take it or leave it offer with the owner at 1.3 million, so $500,000 off, $1 million off of the assessed value.
Wow.
So just to give you an idea of like how crazy and absurd it is. And I was like, it's a take it or leave it. Like, this is kind of what I want, or I don't really think it's worth it. And 20 minutes later, he calls me back. He's like, okay. The realtor was like, let's do it. So like once in a lifetime kind of opportunity. And yeah.
This all happened like in the same couple of weeks. You guys closed these. I don't know. I love these stories because, it's that Ruskin quote, dream lofty dreams, and as ye dream, so shall ye become. That your vision is the promise of what shall at last unveil itself. And I see that. But if it's not on your intention, if it's not on your focus, if you're not checking it, am I moving in that direction? What advancement have I made this week toward that goal? What have I looked at? What have I asked? What questions have I asked? What offers have I made? If you don't have that ability individually, I think this is where I think you both do, but this is where a partnership can throw superpower to that. Just keep on it. I'm ribbing you. I'm there. I'm helping. Where you do that for each other, I think it's just fantastic. So huge congratulations and on both of these. They're just amazing projects. It's so fun that when you are in the business of buying real estate, and it's oftentimes they're all great, but it's another deal. We're going to make some money, and then when you hook into the personal use one, it's like building your own home versus building an apartment. It takes on a whole different world when it's something you're going to move into, and so fun to get involved in that way. I want to go back. This is because it's my hope that there's been some shift in the world of finance and thinking. I know I see it in some of the offers you're doing and making and getting, but I want to go back to power players from a content standpoint. That talk to me about the world of negotiated private debt with the owner or otherwise versus conventional debt. I'm seeing I'm seeing deals where we're really trying to get the owner involved in financing on most everything we're working at. From an intellectual standpoint, talk about that shift in focus.
Well, like we've done a fair amount of deals where, it's like hard money or conventional, and it's always, before we met you, it was a very like my way or the highway with the banks, right? You have to do 20% down. This is the set interest rate. This is exactly what you have to do. All these conditions, and if you sell it, then we have to get paid back. And there's so many different things that they make you abide by, rules that they make you abide by. Mm-hmm. But as we meet with sellers, and they're very flexible. They're they only need typically a few things, and then everything else can kind of be worked out in a way. So there's always a solution with a seller when they're the bank, when they're providing the financing for the deal. So it makes opportunities a lot easier. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we can pay less than purchase price. Sometimes we can pay more than purchase price. Sometimes we can pay it at retail price or whatever the market price should be. So there's a lot of different factors that can play into it. Mm-hmm. And having the seller or the owners as the bank, it really helps make a lot of deals pencil.
We were recently at Power Players, and you guys will have this role for sure in the future. But Jeff Stevens gave a presentation on what he called the game board, and here are various notes whereby the seller is the beneficiary of a note. And of course, they have a substitution security clause. They have a first right of refusal clause. They have a slice and dice clause. They have all of these, the lettuce and tomatoes attached to that note. And how with these movable debts, how the game board can just look this way 1 month, and then 2 months from now everything is moved and this is freed up, and here's a block of a garage for money that didn't exist before, so now you use it to buy this. And it's a dynamic board that is changing all the time given opportunity and needs, versus their way or the highway of this is it. It's not going anywhere until it's paid off. Here's the terms. Here's the deadlines. Without any flexibility. It's like a car without shock absorbers. You better be on a flat, smooth road, because otherwise you're going to get the crap beat out of you, right? That's how it feels to me. And I love seeing the offers that you're putting in now involving the seller and financing. I love it because it's creating a portfolio that's alive. It's got room to move and duck and weave, and in an economy that's very, who knows what's coming up next, to have those shock absorbers and flexibilities built in. Oh man, I just I love seeing that, and so it's exciting to me. That's sort of foundational in growing a much bigger portfolio as you guys you're on your way. Having all those built in is what's going to allow you to kind of take the hits of the unknowns too, right? You've always got a way to kind of remaneuver given what none of us see coming, right? So, proud moment there. Talk to me about brokerage. I want to hear the world of brokerage, licensing. You've recently hit the ground running in that department. You've had a license for quite some time. Talk to me about how that world incorporates into your life, your partnership, etc.
I feel like the main purpose of me getting my license was because we were doing so many direct-to-client seller meetings, and just having that extra layer of licensing and education made them more comfortable dealing with off-market deals, especially without having a broker involved because we're both brokers. So it's just been really great. I feel like all of our client meetings have always been a good balance of both you and I, because we are brokers, but at the end of the day, we also are investors, and that's our main point of being investors. And so having a broker's license, I also deal with other agents who will then bring us deals, and then we'll have them list back. And so we can still just be the investor. But because I have that broker's license as well, I understand all the paperwork. So I'm more than capable of doing it myself. But yeah, I'm not quite sure where I want to go with that. I've listed some things, and all of our properties, we've always had someone else list it, but we're capable of listing it ourselves. But usually we just deduct it off and don't have agent fees. But yeah, I'm not really quite sure. I also helped a property manager. She had a 400 plus portfolio, and I helped manage that with her for about 3 years. And I think that was also my breaking point of, hey, why am I doing this for someone else? I should do this for myself. So I'm still kind of dabbling and researching what I want to do. But first and foremost, investing is my top priority. Yeah.
And you have the broker's license, and in Washington, you can have a management company and a broker's license. You actually need a broker's license to have a management company. It's not a separate license. But from a real estate broker's perspective, Jason, how do you see that license serving you?
So I actually have a managing broker's license as well. So I own my own office and my own company that manages as well. I do see the future as going into being as a commercial realtor as well, and then using my license to do it as a lot more of commercial real estate. That's what my 5-year goal is after I get the property management pretty well set up and stabilized. And like, I'm pretty hands off right now, but I want to build it to a much bigger, and then add on a commercial portion of it as well.
Do you run into the argument where you're meeting a property owner, you want to buy their property, and because you're licensed, you have to disclose to them that you have a license? A lot of people don't get a license thinking that disclosure is going to somehow hinder them in buying the property. Do you run into any pushback, or is it the opposite from where you're coming from?
I think it's definitely situational, but I feel like it's actually helpful. If you come in with honesty and say, hey, I am a broker, but I'm looking to invest and buy this myself, I don't think that they push you off. And usually when it's just, hey, I just want to list your property, is when they're not okay with it. But sometimes, we'll have a conversation, and what they want is out of what we're willing to pay. And then we offer, hey, that we are brokers. If you want our help, we're more than happy to help. And then they'll be like, yeah, I actually really like you guys. Let's list it instead. And so I think it gives you multitudes of ways to be able to do a deal with somebody. But no, I don't think that it hurts. I think if anything, it helps.
I think I've asked that question very specific at least a dozen times where it's been recorded, and I have only and ever heard that answer. And I really believe that it's an asset to have that. How should you even think that having additional education and licensing, this and that, in some way is going to put somebody off? That makes no sense. It's just all in how you frame it. And so I totally agree with you that having it gives you another drop-down menu of ways you can serve people. If the price and terms are not something that you're able to do as an investor, but you've made the connection, you've earned their trust, they want to work with you, the drop-down menu is, okay, well, let's try to take this to the retail market. And if anybody can get that price and that buyer, we think we can. And we'll quarterback this for you and get paid for it. That's not a bad drop-down menu. especially with the commission structure in real estate that literally has not changed much in 50 years. It's absolutely amazing to me that the commission structures remained fairly much the same in all the years I've been at this. So good answer. I love that. If you two were to require, I like that word, require the listening world to read 2 or 3 books that have influenced you, that you would say, you must read this. Or it could be something like a documentary that you've watched that you need to watch this. I told Ryan last night, we were upstairs going through some notes, and somehow the documentary called My Octopus Teacher. Have you seen it? Yeah. Oh. Well, I told Ryan, I said, listen, sit down with Linda and Kinley and watch this. Watch it a couple times. Just do it. Anyway, what are the things that you've read or seen that you would require your world because you care about them to see or read?
I would say that three of my favorites are How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Just changes the way of how you talk to people.
Yeah.
Instead of just talk about ramming your opinions into people's. It's like there's a better way of talking to people where people actually communicate better with you and you communicate your point across in a much more pleasant way. Let's see, I like Mindset by Carol Dweck, and that one, it walks you through a lot of how you think about things, not on more of a deeper level, and why you think about things the way that you do. So it helps you kind of think about how your mind is wired and what things you can do to unwire and then reprogram it to a different way of thinking about things. And then my last one is Never Split the Difference. It's just a good way of just talking and negotiating anything, because in life, almost everything's a negotiation.
Is that Voss?
Yeah, by Chris Voss.
Right, Chris Voss, right. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. V, what about you?
Mindset is definitely my number one. That changed a whole lot of me and my way of thinking. And I think my second one would be Buy Back Your Time with Dan Martell. And then the third would be How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. That one's also Dale Carnegie. Yeah, because I'm a worry wart.
Carnegie wrote that. Boy, that's, And the title speaks for itself.
Yes, it does.
Interesting. Yeah. That's fantastic. Okay, in the same kind of vein, we all run into people. We all connect with people. We all have an experience with somebody that when we look at our thinking, our wiring, our motivation, that they've really influenced us. Of course, I think of A.B. just jumps off the page in my life, for example. Give me people that you've known that have really influenced you, that have changed you. How have they changed you?
Like I'd hate to say this, but my dad's probably the biggest influencing factor, even though he's kind of always there, but in the background. But, he's done a lot of amazing and very difficult things in his life, from going from like a rural farm boy to going into the Vietnam War to giving up everything with just a suitcase and going to a foreign country on a dream. And then, like, I always think about, like, what I'm doing is nothing compared to, like, the challenges that I face are nothing compared to literally going to a completely different country on a few people's words saying that it's great, and then with the American dream, and then just making it work and to, have enough money and bring the rest of the family and, just making it. I think everything kind of seems simple or easy when
Yeah.
you're looking at challenges like that.
Right. Yeah. Can't even really imagine. Yeah. Pack a bag and go to a place you don't even know the language and make it. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's huge. What about you, V? Who's been influential?
I think my mom also has to be my person. I think, you know, my dad has a big influence too, but my mom, she's like the biggest sweetheart in the world. She's just so humble, so loving, so kind, so self-sacrificing. And I think it's because she was put in a position where she just had to do what she had to do to survive and be the wife that she was forced to be, the mom. And she, to this day, she still won't buy herself anything. Like she has such a mentality of self-serving for other people that she literally will not go out and buy herself a purse, or she won't buy herself a dress. You know, so as much as I love her, I was like, I would never want to be in a position where my mother put herself into, because she had no choice. And I wanted to show her, like, look, you've made all these sacrifices. You've gone through all these things with dad and hardships with family and schooling and work, and you've sacrificed your whole life so that your daughter could have a choice. And look at what I'm doing. And I think that's like what's really driven me. Just like, because of you, Mom, here I am. So, yeah.
Yeah. That complete investment, a total buy-in. Yeah. Somebody that believes in you more than they even believe in themselves. Yeah. No, I that's an amazing thing. It's an amazing, amazing thing. What about experiences that you guys have found a way to get on the other side of? You know, I think of you drawing a line and saying, okay, I'm going to change. I need to start thinking goals. I'm going to surround myself with people going somewhere. That could be one. But adversity sometimes can be a great, great teacher. Matter of fact, usually is the greatest teacher. Any adversity that you've navigated, your parents, obviously, I can't imagine anything more than that. But have you had to look at something seriously and say, okay, this is a difficult situation. I'm going to get on the other side of this. Talk to me about that.
Well, I'd say I've had a few, but probably the biggest one is, you know, like after, like we mentioned before, I owned a gas station with my brother, and you know, I'd sacrificed probably from like 9 years of my life building it up from a $1.5 million gas station that we put all of our family life savings into that property, building it up, and then, you know, at a certain point, like right around that time when I watched that documentary, it hit where, like, I was about to have my first child, and then, like, a couple of years went through, and then it hit really hard, and I was like, a phrase that my daughter said to me was like, it was very far away, so I like traveled 3 hours away on the other side of Washington. And I'd sacrificed probably half of the month there working. And then she one time said to me, like, Daddy, why do you always have to be gone? Or why can't you work closer? Why can't I see you? And that was that moment where I was like you sacrificed most of your life and to provide. And we built it up pretty well. And at that moment, like, I was driving, and by the time I got there, I decided, like, okay, it's not worth it anymore. So essentially talked to my brother, and, you know, he bought me out for like $200,000 out of the $5 or $6 million that we had in valuation on it. And I was like, look, it's not really worth the money for me anymore. I just walking away from it, and it's hard because I sacrificed so much of my life to build up something so big, and then to give it all up, and then to pretty much lose your income, lose your stability, to go off to the unknown, and then get very little to show for it. And I think at that moment, it was like the hardest thing to think about, because you're essentially giving up all of your money, everything that you put into for the last 10 years. And I was like, it's not worth it. But as now that I look back on it, like if I didn't do that, like I wouldn't be where I am now. So at the moment, it was the hardest and most difficult and grueling decision I made. But like 3,000%, I would do it in a heartbeat today. I have no anguish, no hard feelings on my brother. It's actually the best thing in my life that I ever thought about, giving it up. Because when you shut one door, 3 more open.
Yeah.
Right.
But they won't unless you shut that
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's wow. Yeah, that's there's a lesson there. There's somebody that's going to listen to that and go, because that voice that says, this is what you need to do, it's not going to knock the door down. It's just you'll know it. And it doesn't scream at you. It just says, no, you need to move on. And when you do, then the door's open. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That takes courage to do that. That's huge. I think that there's going to be chapters of those sorts of things, where you realize that, you don't know sometimes until you go. You spend a lot of time and effort buying something, building it, and you go, wow, I thought this was going to be different, but it isn't. So it's almost like admitting defeat in a way. Like it's hard to do. We have a lot of pride. We want to see it through. We want to finish it, but you can't get to second base sometimes without leaving first base. So that's a great one, Jason. V, does anything come to your mind like that of just, obviously you've got these parent examples,
Yes.
but in your life, what about leaving the very successful video film world?
Yeah, I think, that world was great. I got to travel the world, got to see really cool things, meet really cool people, worked with the Seahawks, celebrities, traveled and cruised on Holland America doing advertisings for them. And it was just a really great career. But I was always gone. And I was previously married. And just like my mother, who's extremely submissive to my father, my partner cheated on me and I had miscarried, and I just kind of stayed quiet and continued working and dealt with things that was going on in the relationship that were not healthy until I hit a breaking point and was just like, why am I doing this? I'm worth more than this. I can do better. There's no point for me to continue striving away and slaving away for somebody that doesn't value me. And then I slowly realized I wasn't valuing myself. And again, that's the whole mindset shift where I finally put my foot down and wasn't going to stand for it anymore. And it's just like, I need to change. My life needs to change. I need to do something different. And, film was amazing and I still do it. I still love it, but it's extremely time consuming. And as any kind of corporate job, however much time you put in is how much you're going to get paid out, which is what I love about real estate is it's completely different. And the investments that you put in, it's analyzing, it's doing things right. And your return is significantly more than the 10 hours you get paid for the 10-hour rate that you get. So I think real estate is what makes me so excited because there's so much more opportunity there. And I think, funny enough, I always doubt myself because of things that I've gone through, and devalue myself and think that I can't do things. And going through Power Players, I was absolutely terrified to go ask for someone's sunglasses. I was like, who in their right mind would just give me their sunglasses off of their head on the street? And because I was like, who would want to do that? They don't know me. They don't have I don't have value to them. Why would they want to do this? And the first person I asked gave me their sunglasses, and that hit me pretty hard. Just like, wow, like there's good people out there, and they saw something in me that they were willing to give something to me for nothing, and that changed me too. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of adversities, but how you get over them and continue moving forward is
I think that there's something really powerful about what you said, and Jason, it's similar, that there's this voice that said there's a future there that looks different, but it's up to you to have the courage to leave where you're at to an unknown. It's not like, oh, and here's the better offer in front of you, right? That would be easier, but there wasn't a better offer. It was that the only way we're going to discover what that might look like is to leave. And leaving to the unknown. I think that sometimes you don't exactly know what you want, but if you're honest, it's easier to look inside and say, but I know what I don't want. Right? I don't want this. And that's a tough one. That's a quiet decision. But when you make it, it does unlock possibilities. And now, okay, now you're open again. Now your radar's looking for, what does that look like? It's hard to discover unless the boat leaves the dock. You've got to go look, So I think that courage, who is it that said that courage is not the lack of fear, it's action in spite of fear, where you just go, well, I'm not sure what's there, but I'm going.
Yeah.
And look, that's the reward is playing itself out. And now I think that dream board is alive again, that place of saying, this is what I want, this is what I deserve. And when you start declaring those things, they happen, and they're happening. So I'm really proud of both of you. That's awesome. I was watching a documentary, it would remind you of a TED Talk, but it was about she's a Paralympic gold medalist, but she was born without from the knees down. She was born without bones and anything in her feet. So she was born a double amputee. And so it's all she's known is, and so this notion that she was born disabled. And this talk started with her looking up the word in the dictionary in her thesaurus that she kept with her everywhere. Disabled, what does that mean? And the adjectives that describe this are just unbelievable. They're about that long, and it's, not able, not worthy, hindered, all these very, 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 very negative sounding words. And the whole talk was about shifting that what is apparently this way, if framed differently, poses a very rare and amazing opportunity. So when something's not right, it can actually become more than right because of what it launches you into if framed properly. And and that shift, that mindset of how we look at this, that this is either a bad thing and difficult and I'm living in this terrible place, or I'm on the threshold of opportunity because this is driving me here. And for her, that shift was, oh, yeah, nobody's going to see this coming. And all of a sudden she's, supermodel, Olympic athlete. Her life just is taken off in 8 million directions because of a mind shift that this is actually my superpower. This is my advantage. I sat right here with Todd, who had an accident in Hawaii a decade ago, and he was paralyzed instantly. Like, that was it. 1 minute, he's 40 years old and superhuman and will take you on in any sport in the world and he'll beat you. And rock star businessman and the next minute, he can move his eyes and his mouth, and that's it. And he sat here in a wheelchair, and he looked at me and he said, Greg, you know why you'll never compete with me? Because I have dual perspectives. You only have one. And I went, he said, let me explain. He said, for 40 years of my life, I was a walkie. And I'd walk and boy, I'd get it done, just like you do. But now I'm a rollie. He said, you see, so whereas you can only walk, I can walk and roll. And I see two perspectives of everything. And therefore, it's like a superpower. I see ways of doing things that you've never even thought of because you only look at it from a walkie perspective. I look at it from a walkie and a rollie perspective. AJ was here listening to this. We both just kind of looked at each other like, wow. And he was dead serious. And he lives that way. It's his superpower. He just has turned it into that. Well, I think that difficult things, difficult realizations, where you don't want to really think it, you've got your whole world invested in this, but it's a daughter that goes, why this? Or it's a revelation that goes, no, this isn't anybody did this. What are you doing to yourself? You're putting up with this. Mm-hmm. You're better than this. Mm-hmm. That different voice that you hear it differently and you go, oh, well, shit, that's that. By the time you got to work, the decision had been made. By the time that thought crossed your mind, it was like, yeah, no. To me, that's the courage place, because you can hear that voice and go, it's too scary. Mm-hmm. But you didn't do that. And look, doors flying open. The world is changing. Just bought a $1.3 million house on the Puget Sound that's 10,000 feet. And I can't wait for the party. You got to have a party before you sell it or do anything with it, right? Yeah. And V, you know that now it's motivating me to make sure you know how to swim because you live on the water. I'm like Washington, for crying out loud. So you see, new doors. Mm-hmm. But they never would have happened if you didn't listen to that voice and just go, yep. Adversity can be the superpower. It can be the lesson of all lessons, and when we believe that, we become unafraid of adversity because we believe in the backside. We believe in the shadow of it is a great perspective, a great launching place where we go from here. That's a mind thing. Mm-hmm. So, wow. So cool. Okay, so the at the end of the day, you guys are working together. You're supporting each other. You're achieving personal goals. You're moving towards your business goals. What legacy? What's at the very end of this thing when it all adds up? What do you want to say? This is what it's been about. This is what I've contributed to the planet. This is what I've given to the world around me.
So, I mean, one of my life goals is to help 100 other people become millionaires. So, like, I know how to do it in maybe a little bit of life goal planning or goal setting, or in real estate. So, like, one of those is I want to help people, just make it or do something that they never thought they would. So I think I'm one, but I'm trying to get two others that are, building up to there. And then, but my life goal is, one of them is to get 100 millionaires, to make 100 people at least a millionaire.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And lead by example. Mm-hmm. Here's how it can be done, and teach it. That's awesome, Jason. Yeah. What about you, V?
I would like family someday, and whether or not that's my own or adoption, that's something that I would love to have of my own someday. But then I think the biggest thing that I would love to leave behind is influencing other women, other colored women, Asian women. I think it's something that I have always questioned myself with my worth and my capabilities. And, even a great example was at the hangar when you had called me up to recite, and I fumbled a little bit and I was really hard on myself, and I walked away and I was like, oh, I knew that. I could have done it better. I could have delivered it better next time. And then a couple months later at another hangar, I met another power player. And she was like, oh, you're the girl that recited on the last hangar. And my daughters looked up to you. They said they want to be just like you. And I was like, oh my gosh. And for that moment, I was so hard on myself. But then I realized this little girl looked at me like, I want to be her, you know? And so I think that was like what I want to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can see it in your eyes.
I know.
That means a lot to you. Yeah. But this is where I think that a huge part of how we perceive the world is making sure that we're telling ourselves the right story. I think that you couldn't. I don't know how any parent could be ill-meaning in what they're doing. I think they all try to do their best in a certain way. But sometimes the message doesn't come through the way it should. And so we have to, as adults, say, okay, I think what they meant to say was that I'm amazing and capable. Mm-hmm. I really do believe that's what they meant to say. Now, somehow they weren't able to communicate it that way. But this is what I believe. And so I'm going to just help them along with that. And that's the true message that I'm going to hear. And when you adjust the input, as adults, we have a responsibility to dive into hardwiring, and sure, we can ratify that we really agree with, but we get to remodel or replace that didn't come out right. We get to do that. That's that change component that is so inspiring, that where we go, no, I'm going to write the message so that what I'm telling myself is the truth. And the truth, it's amazing how many incredibly amazing, capable people I've run into who the message that was given to them was not that. Mm-hmm. And you think, how could they have been delivered anything but this? They're so amazing. But it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And so you're rewriting that. Mm-hmm. And you stepped up, and nobody would have ever, unless you pointed it out, nobody would have said you faltered even a comma. You're harder on yourself, but what you delivered was inspiring to where they went, oh, wow, she is so smart. She's so beautiful. I want to be just like that, right? You know, I'm sitting here. We haven't talked about this, but my dad had nothing, and therefore you should want for nothing. And if you want for something, it's only because you need it. That was the hardwiring. Do you need it? And you don't think about things you don't need. And it took a lot of courage. When I was 8, I went to him and said, I would like to get a bicycle. And my brother went with me. He didn't have one either. And he said, well, okay, I think a bicycle is, kids should have a bicycle. I'm not sure it's a need, but I think you should have that. But you're going to have to work hard for it. And if you save half the money for it, I'll pay the other half. Well, at 50 cents an hour, which is what our allowance was if we worked hard for that hour, it took a long time to earn half the bicycle I wanted. And a year. And I had $90 saved up in a year. And I went back to Dad and said, okay, I've got my half of the bicycle that I want saved up. Jeff had his half. And we went to go get a bicycle to the Schwinn bike store. I walked in and I pointed at the one I'd been saving my money for. It was the Stingray bicycle with the 5-speed stick shift and the Ram handlebars and the banana seat in green. There it was. And my dad looked at it and said, that's not a bicycle. I don't know what that is. What is that stupid seat, those curly bars? That's not a bicycle. This is a bicycle. The standard looking bicycle. If you want a bicycle, that's what you get. I'll pay for half of that one. I don't even know what that is. We're not getting that. And I was crushed, right? And I can't believe that we left with the bicycles. I didn't even want the standard one. But my brother and I left with the same exact bicycle, the same exact color. How stupid is that? And neither of us wanted these. So what do? I never forgot it. And at the advent of eBay and Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, every time you could search for something, for 15 years I've been searching for a 1967 Schwinn Stingray bicycle with banana seat, green, the Ram edition with the Ram handlebars. And just a month ago, finally, that exact bike popped up. And it's right up there in the rafters now. I literally bought it. There it is. I haven't even ridden it. I don't need to ride it. I just needed to own it. There it is. You see, so I guess the point is, if you didn't get it the way it should have been delivered, you can go back and go, I'm going to write the script correctly. And I am this, and I'm going to do this and be this. And that's what's happening. And it's in a big way. You've more than made that statement with your dad. I hope sometime he looks you in the eye and says, I was wrong. You're beyond capable and amazing. and you know, I'm eating your dust, V. This is incredible. I hope. But if it doesn't happen, I want you to know it nonetheless.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Incredible. Both of you, just amazing what you're doing. Absolutely amazing. I'm just taken. This group of power players that you've gotten to know, you're leaders in that group. They're watching you. All of them are watching you. And this is going to help them watch you a little more. And it's really, you're giving to that group. And these are hard-driven entrepreneurs. They're also well on their road, but you're leading that group. And that's pretty exciting too, to see you. So your influence is already on its way to helping people become millionaires. And V, I know that everything that you've ever dreamed of, just write it down, declare it. It's happening. So thank you guys for being a part of this podcast. I want the world to know how they directly connect with you, and do it in a way that you can absorb that input, be it email or however you want, but tell the world how they can connect with you and comment on this podcast and how they can get to know you more.
They can shoot me an email. It's Jason Lee, PROP@gmail.com.
Well, that's easy enough.
Yep.
Jason Lee, PROP@gmail.com. V, how about you?
I'm at vi.pham@outlook.com. So that's my first dot last name at outlook.com. And I'm also on Instagram. It's real estate with VIP, which is my name, VFam, VIP. So real estate with VIP.
I don't know if I've ever put that together. The VIP.
VIP. That's how you spell my name.
Well, you are a VIP.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for being with me. And until we tackle this again, thank you for being on this podcast. Thank you for taking the time and taking notes. They've given you ways to stay in touch with them. And of course, I think you know how to run me down, but the easiest way is my cell is 206-226-7777. Thanks again. Till next time. This is Pinneo. Over and out.